Hello, beloved patrons and mindful sex community. I'm Andrea, your friendly neighborhood sex witch, here to announce the 2026 Mindful Sex Monthly Workshop Collection. So, Mindful Sex Monthly is a free workshop that I put on every month, usually with my beloved sex therapist, now husband, Christopher. Many of you have met him and seen him on our videos. We put together these workshops as a way to introduce subjects like this into the collective, to have really fucking great conversations with people, to help people get their sex and pleasure and desire and relationship questions answered, and to explore stuff that's interesting to us. So I've done this now for about 2 years. I have about 18 Mindful Sex Monthly videos in my archive, which you can read below. And I took a couple of months off. I took October off for my wedding. And I didn't start in November or December again because the holidays are busy and people are just distracted with stuff. But we are going to start in January and go all the way through to December 2026. So again, these are monthly workshops that you can join for free. And if you've joined our workshops before, even if it's on a subject that you know something about or know a lot about, it's still really fun. Like, please come have a conversation with us. We love talking with the community about this stuff, and there's not a lot of places where you can just have conversations about sacred sexuality and erotic energy and cock massage. Like, we love hosting these, and we really want people to come. Not only are they a great way for you to get questions answered and learn something new, a new skill, a new practice, something kind of that might blow your mind, which I love doing. It's really just a way to build community around this, to start to break down the shame, break down stigma, break down barriers when it comes to sex and pleasure education. So Christopher and I sat down a few days ago and mapped out what our 2026 workshop schedule is going to look like. And I'm super excited. We've got some new ones on the list and some others that just like resonated super well with people last year. I went through my list and I polled which did people respond to the most. And then we also included some that are just really important, and I'll talk about each of them in turn. So these are subject to change depending on kind of what's happening in our life, but for the most part, I really want to stick with this schedule. We can always add another workshop or create specific Patreon content if there's something else that's new and coming up. So we're going to try and stick to this schedule, and I want to give it to you early so that you can also map out your year of free workshops with the sex nerds. So in January, we are going to talk about sexual sophistication. This is a term that we came up with literally on our honeymoon to talk about all the ways that we want to be with each other, what we expect from lovers, and part of what you can really learn from us. A lot of sex education is really built around kind of skills and techniques, like how to give the best blowjob and how to do the best lap dance or whatever. But so skill is an important part of it, but skills building is not the whole of it. When I talk about sexual sophistication, just like as if we were talking about psychological sophistication or emotional sophistication, it means that you've done the work. It means that you've done some internal review. It means you're self-reflective about who you are and what you like and what you want to do in bed and why, perhaps. It's understanding that sex is a learned skill, but that it is also a practice, that it's an art. And really understanding sexual sophistication as this kind of multifaceted way to approach sexuality helps us kind of figure out who we want to be, what we want to teach, and also who we want to call in as lovers. We want somebodies people who are sexually sophisticated, who've thought about this stuff and tried a bunch of cool stuff and figured out what they liked and who really know themselves sexually. So we're going to talk all about sexual sophistication. We're still noodling this out and figuring out exactly what this looks like, but the phrasing is really good. I'm a fan of alliteration, and I just love the whole energy of it. So, sexual sophistication in January. In February, we are going to talk about erotic liberation. And what I mean by erotic liberation is that when you start to get curious about who you are, what you want, really tuning into your desires and really understanding your boundaries, your edges, your yes, your no, you become a different person. And when we follow the erotic energy, when we understand sex in this new way, that it's not just friction, it's not just about getting off, but it's actually about creating connection, maybe even connecting with spirituality, maybe even using sex as a healing practice, what we get is liberation. Liberation from toxic family cycles, liberation from our own rumination, liberation from the constraints that society puts on us, liberation from nice guy or good girl conditioning that tells us we have to be a certain way or we have to want to fuck a certain way. Liberation in that we own our pleasure, that nobody can take that away from us. Liberation as in pleasure is the medicine to help us fight the very real problems that are happening in the world, because pleasure is a renewable resource that we have control over. Liberation from the stuckness and the stagnation that so many of us are accustomed to. So erotic liberation is our topic for February. In March, we are bringing back one of my favorite things to talk about, which is multi-orgasmic journeys. So we are going to talk about how you can explore your multiple orgasmic potential, because it really is in all of us. So we'll talk about tools like toys and practices. We will talk about skills building and how you can learn to expand your pleasure ceiling so that you can literally hold more pleasure in your body. And this is for people with penises and people with pussies, because one of the great lies that we have been told is that people with penises can only have one orgasm and then they're done. And that is not true. So we'll explore all sorts of different ways that you can become multi-orgasmic with a penis or with a pussy. Very fun, very juicy, just a lovely class. We taught it once before and I fucking love it. In April, we are going to talk about a subject that we have done some content on, but we haven't actually taught a class on it yet, which is non-monogamy. So this one is going to be called the multi-part heart, which is another phrase that we came up with on our honeymoon. And this idea of the multi-part heart makes space for us to love different people and different people in different ways. And knowing that our heart literally has multiple chambers and then it also has different parts, just like we have different parts of us, right? Internal family systems methodology tells us that we have the inner child, the inner teenager, the inner parent, whatever it might be. And those parts inform who we are. And a multi-part heart is a nice way to think about non-monogamy or open relating. And I want to also caveat this by saying that just because you're interested or curious about this doesn't mean you have to blow up your life, doesn't mean you have to give up your monogamous partnership. There are lots of ways to explore your multi-part heart that don't necessarily involve other people. So we'll talk about ways to engage with your multi-dimensional eroticism that you still want to, if you want to remain monogamous, that is absolutely possible. But to own your desires and to own what you want is really powerful. In May, we are going to talk about differentiation. As you might imagine, this comes from the sex therapist husband. And we are going to talk about why differentiation and remaining calm and curious is one of the best relationship hacks that you absolutely need to practice. Differentiation is the idea that my partner and I are different people. And of course, that is true. And in a lot of couples, we can have some codependency or some enmeshment where, well, you can't like that movie, I don't like that movie, or you can't be hungry right now, I'm not hungry right now. You can see how this can create a lot of problems for couples that are deeply codependent or deeply enmeshed, because differentiation allows us to explore who we are as individuals, whether that's our hobbies, our food, our, masturbation practices, our sex practices. We get to be different people, and understanding that our partner is a wholly different human than us is what makes for great relationships. So this one will most likely be led primarily by Christopher and his therapeutic brilliance. So please join us for that. If you are in a partnership or looking for a partnership, understanding differentiation, magic to your connection. In June, we are going to talk about a second time around, we are going to talk about solo tantra. This is another class that I've taught before. It was very, very well received. And in this one, we'll be doing some practices and sharing some practical wisdom about how you, as a single person or as a person in partnership, maybe your partner's not on board, can really practice the tenets of sacred sexuality. We'll talk about breath, we'll talk about eroticism, we'll talk about sexual energy, and we'll talk about practices that you can do on your own to start to understand your sexuality as divine, to help explore cosmic connection through your orgasm, and help understand how sex can be a meditation or a prayer, even if you are by yourself. In July, we're going to talk about another one that was really popular last year, about how to be a masterful lover. And I love this phrasing. It goes along with our January topic of sexual sophistication, because to me, being a masterful lover is what I would want any partner to be. It's what I would want any friend to have in their partner, right? Somebody who is masterful of their sexual energy, who understands who they are in bed and in life, somebody who understands how to hold their energy and hold their desire while also being very attuned and very present with who you are in the moment and overall. So becoming a masterful lover takes time and skills, and I think it's some of the best skills that we can possibly learn. This class is especially important for my men, but it's also important for women and everybody else, because the way boys and men are raised to approach sex is this kind of scarcity mentality, and that creates a lot of rush. It creates a lot of expectation, and it can create a lot of pressure on their lovers. So understanding how to become a master of who you are is so attractive and so unbelievably powerful, that if you are looking for a way to really become a better partner, become a better lover, become a better man, this class is absolutely for you. In August, we are going to bring back one of our most tender subjects that we've ever talked about. It came up in workshops multiple times. We had some beautiful, heartfelt conversations about it during our last workshop last year. We're going to talk about sexless partnerships. Sexless partnerships look different for different people, but it's functionally when a marriage or a partnership has become sexless or completely sex-free under duress, right? It's not something that you've both agreed upon. Like, let's just be non-sexual co-parents. Like, that's a great way to have a sexless partnership that is agreed upon. But most people find themselves in sexless partnerships under duress. They love their partner. They don't want to leave them. Maybe they're raising kids together, but they're not getting their erotic needs met, and they don't know how. So understanding that sexual needs are a valid relational need, understanding that there's nothing wrong with you if you find yourself in a sexless partnership, and understanding how to love and care for your own eroticism in a sexless partnership and or how to heal from a sexless partnership if you are leaving it and kind of haven't had access to your eroticism for a long time, how to bring that back online after a sexless partnership is ended or something has shifted. So really beautiful, really tender topic that's really close to our hearts and close to a lot of people's hearts. So I hope you can check that one out as well. All right, September, we are going to talk about consent practices. I want to talk about learning how to fully give and fully receive. And this comes from a practice called the Wheel of Consent, which we will touch upon in this workshop, which is basically understanding who the touch is for. If I am doing something to you, it can be for you, but it could also be for me, depending on the energy and the intention and how I'm doing it and all of that. So really understanding the art of giving and the art of receiving, which is much harder for most of us. Learning how to balance the two of them in a sexual dance is part of how you become a masterful lover, part of how you become a very generous lover, and part of how you really protect yourself from boundary crossings, from consent violations, and really just like have more fun. It's very hard to give and receive at the same time. If you've ever 69, you may have experienced this. And really leaning into giving is a gift that you give your partner. Really leaning into receiving is also a gift to you and to them. So understanding that touch, bi-directional touch, who it's for, so good. It's literally one of my favorite things to teach. All right, October and November, we are going to teach two separate classes. We are going to teach our erotic massage. I've taught this before for people with pussies. I've taught it live. I've taught it online, and it has always been a fucking hit. So please join us for a live class. We will figure out how exactly we're going to do this or demo this. You can bring a partner. You can bring yourself. This will be a live sex practice that you get to participate in. This is not show and tell, so we're not watching everybody else doing it. You will have your screens off, but it's a really beautiful chance for you to practice live with us and really learn some very special, like very juicy techniques for pleasuring a pussy in October and pleasuring a cock in November. So please join for both of those and learn how to worship, learn how to love up on, learn how to really engage their body and your body in really different ways. And if you're solo, you can absolutely come and practice these on yourself. And in December, we will close out the year with one of my other favorite classes to teach, which always gets a really good response, which is the erotic within. Understanding the erotic as life force energy. Understanding that your sex is not just fun and playful, but that it is actually a meditation. It is actually an energy. It is actually a way to fuel your life, fuel your creativity, your parenting, your work, your exercise. When we tap in to this life force energy, we have access to this incredibly powerful portal into being our fullest expression of ourselves. So that will be in December. I'm going to drop the links to all of the previous mindful sex workshops below. So if any of those topics rang your bell, look below and see if there's already a recorded version of it. I know we have multi-orgasmic journeys, we have the erotic within, we have sexless partnerships. So there already is some of this content in our archives, but we are always learning stuff, and you all are always learning stuff and bringing new stuff to us. So even if you've watched it once, you can absolutely come back and join us again. So that is your Mindful Sex 2026 preview. I hope to see you literally at all of our classes. Please come, please join, please be part of the conversation. And if you ever miss it, you can always find them in the archive here below. And we will see you starting the second Saturday in January, which is, let me check my calendar. January 10th is when we start in 2026. I hope to see you all then. Drop any questions below, and